Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, November 26th, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. We came to you starting at 9:11 a.m. Eastern today, and that is because there was so much stuff to plan in the show. We actually had to do a real pregame meeting here, and that is my fault. This is one of those shows you definitely want to rip the knob off. We need the butt style. Lock it in, rip the knob off, because we have more recruiting content today than maybe we've ever had on the show. And considering the fact there will be no Thursday show because our guys like to have turkey and watch the Cowboys get their butts kicked, we're going to have it all on today's show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And we have some sponsors, but I would like to talk about a certain special place that's really our all-time sponsor. All the best delicatessen. Pointing in opposite directions, not as easy as you think. This is Mr. Bucknuts' latest tremendous venture. In my opinion, the finest place to get food in the Dayton area. I have the address written down too. 5940 Far Hills in Dayton, catty corner to the Centerville Dorothy Lane Market. It's just the best. I mean, that's why, good Lord, all the best. I was there yesterday. I like to go there because it's the place I get recognized the most for being on Bucknuts. But you've got your relatives in town. Thanksgiving's coming. You need a place to get some grub, or you need a place to escape. All the best has it licked. It's become a one entree spot for me because the pastrami sandwich literally is addictive for me personally. But I'm telling you, this is the spot. All the best Deli. Mr. Bucknuts Venture. And don't forget, we will have some kind of sandwich eat-off coming there in the near future once the season is over. Last year, Tegra Shabola outlasted Carson Hinsman down the stretch. The two of them have had a great season. Any coincidence? I think not. Okay, so you got your food. How do you smell? How do you look? It's football season. Mando. This is one of our official sponsors of the show. It's football season, time for tailgates, touchdowns, and Sunday cookouts with the crew. What does that mean? Mando. You need it because you're around your guys. You get fired up. You get a little smelly. Clinically proven 72-hour odor control. Perfect for long days at the game or the bar. Safe for the whole body. Stops odor before it starts. And it's available in 3 formats. Invisible spray, solid stick, invisible cream. However you do your deodorant, you can fire it up. And then you've got 4 cologne quality scents: Bourbon Leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, Clover Woods. Bourbon Leather guy myself. This is one of those, you're going for the tailgate. It's a whole day thing. You get a little grimy. This is what you want. It smells good. Mando's starter pack is also perfect for new customers. Or if you got to get a last minute stocking stuffer, who knows? It comes with a solid stick deodorant, the Cream 2 deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice. Mini wash, deodorant wipes. And luckily, I have a discount code for you to get started. $5 off your starter pack with our exclusive code. That's 40% off your starter pack. Use Bucknuts at shopmando.com. Sometimes that can be a little bit confusing. It's not mando.com. That's shopmando.com. Don't let BO keep you on the bench. All right. We have a packed show for you today, gentlemen. There are shows where I have to make some chicken salad, and we got to get creative with our recruiting content. This is not one of those shows. Plenty has happened since we last convened, and we are not going to convene with these 2 studs on Thursday. Going to let them enjoy the fam and watch, as I said, the Cowboys get their butts kicked by a subpar team. So we're going to give you the ultimate recruiting rundown here. It's the game week. They just beat Indiana, solidified the number 2 spot, the playoff announcement tonight. So literally more than we can handle even for one show. We're going to start with this. Since I've been here at Bucknuts, Bill, I would say the most surprising visitor that I've seen at a game occurred this past weekend. Word got out. I give credit to the Sanders crew and Ohio State. Nobody knew this was going to happen. Christmas came early, Bill. David Sanders, the apple of our eye, the number one offensive lineman in the country, without question, the recruit in this class that we spent the most time discussing and breaking down, verbally committed to Tennessee. It broke all of our hearts. And then wouldn't you know, he's on the sideline of the Ohio State-Indiana game wearing an Ohio State cap, hanging with Maurice Clarett and others. William, what the heck is going on?
Well, let's go back. And there's a reason I want to go back a little bit. Sanders made official visits to Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Nebraska, South Carolina. So those were his official visits. And if you remember right, at one point, there was talk that the NIL would be important. It is always important in this day and age of big-time recruits, but maybe not that important. And then as things progressed and with Nebraska and all that, the tune kind of changed that, good morning, Deetra, the tune kind of changed that, the NIL is going to be very important in this recruitment. The reason I want to start with that is that there were some that when I confirmed at least that he was actually on campus, I got a text from a Tennessee person, Tennessee side of things, asking, is this confirmed? I said, yep, he's absolutely 100% here, confirmed. And I talked to another Tennessee source, and they said, I asked them about it. They said that Tennessee did not necessarily know he was going to Ohio State. They knew that he was possibly visiting somebody this weekend, not necessarily who it was going to be. But indeed, it was Ohio State, as we know. The reason I mentioned the NIL part of things is that it is important. There's no doubt about it. But there's been talk that it's just been a ploy to raise the ante, so to speak, on the part of Tennessee. I don't buy that at all. Not one single bit do I buy that. And here's some reasons why I don't buy it. First of all, if you were just using it as a ploy, Ohio State is not the number one place you would go necessarily as far as getting the biggest payday. I mean, it's just not. I can think of a few other schools that if I just wanted to get the biggest payday, maybe I would look at those schools. And then some other reasons. David Sanders has long had a good relationship with Justin Fry, Ohio State's offensive line coach. He also has long had a good relationship with Ohio State commitments, Tavian St. Clair, Carter Lowe, etc. He was with them a lot this past weekend. He liked the city on his official visit. He and his family liked the city. When you look at Charlotte, Columbus is a lot more similar to Charlotte than Knoxville, Tennessee is.
Fair.
And the business opportunities and things. It is. There's no question. Charlotte's a little bit bigger than Columbus, I'm pretty sure, but they're very similar in a lot of different ways, more so than Knoxville. He is close, that is, David Sanders, with Paris Johnson, and he has been impressed with the development that Paris Johnson had at Ohio State and where he was drafted. So that's another reason. Monica Paris Johnson's mother has been very involved in this recruitment and done a good job. Yet another reason. And look at what Justin Fry has done with the Ohio State offensive line this season. They've lost, arguably, their two best players, and they're still ticking, so to speak. And look at the development. When Josh Simmons came to Ohio State, he was not thought of as a first-round draft choice. A lot of people –
Bill, can I stop you real quick? This, to me, is the most underrated aspect of Fry, and I tried to do this yesterday on the show, and he deserves credit for this. The most important thing in this is to be able to create a repeatable act. If they can go back into the portal now and say, look, Josh Simmons was a right tackle at San Diego State. When Josh Simmons got hurt, he was, by many, the number one left tackle prospect in football and would have been drafted first. That he would not have been the same at San Diego State. So when you're selling that on the trail, Fry, if we want to replace someone, very impressive. All right, Bill, go ahead. I apologize.
No problem. And, the thing, when I got off I was on with Dave Biddle right after the game on the podcast, and I said that I talked to a couple of people at Ohio State on Saturday, and the vibe went from hopeful from one source to I think we're going to get him to another source. And I think it's probably somewhere in between that. As I brought up, and I still think this is the case, I mean, you don't come up here for 2.5 days and with all those reasons that I just mentioned for there not to be a very legitimate reason. But as I mentioned on Saturday, right after the game, I always try to let the visit wear off a little bit. And Tennessee is not going to just say, okay, he goes to Ohio State. We need to see what Tennessee's response is going to be. And one thing on Ohio State's favor is Tennessee doesn't have a home game this weekend for David Sanders to show up at. He can still go to Tennessee sometime this week, but there's no home game. They play at Vanderbilt, so that's a positive. But still, there is going to be a response, and David Sanders had a lot of reasons why he chose Tennessee the first time, and they're going to be hammering those home to him. He does have a great relationship with their offensive line coach and is impressed with his development. So we will see what happens from here, but there absolutely is going to be a response from Tennessee.
Mark, I want you to comment just on how good he is, but keep this in mind too, people. He knew there was going to be a lot of fanfare once he walked out of the tunnel. It was a clandestine visit up until then, so they wouldn't have done this visit if they weren't super, super serious about this. I think if you followed the Tennessee boards, like Bill saying he followed some optimism within the Ohio State camp, the inverted negativity was apparent. Mark, your thoughts on Sanders? Pretty sure we had him as the top tackle you saw during all our evals.
Yeah, the thing that Bill said that stuck out to me is Tennessee wasn't exactly aware that he was going to go to Ohio State this week. If true, that should be the starred circled thing, because try going to a lunch with some other person, not your wife, and not tell her about it.
It doesn't go well.
Or your girlfriend. I mean, if there was nothing to hide or nothing to be like, yeah, I'm just having lunch with Betty today, wife, it's no big deal. Betty and I just have lunch once a week. It's, nothing to see here. Yeah.
I don't think it matters if you tell your wife or not. Just don't be going to lunch with other women, people. Anyway, go ahead, Mark.
That too. But I mean, at least if you had a relationship with the Tennessee coaches, or you told your wife, hey, I have a business meeting tomorrow with an attractive woman, that it's just a bit. I mean, if you just had that relationship, and that's what I'm getting at, is that relationship where you can say, hey, my family just wants to check out Columbus. You guys don't have a game. We're going to go up there.
Right.
That says to me, okay, he still has a relationship with them. This could be fun and games. This could be a lot of things. But when you go up there and you're going to be in trouble for doing it, you're asking for what? Forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
And I think when you say the response to him, if I'm a Tennessee coach and you want this hot recruit, you can't be mad that he just went on a date with someone else. You can't throw your hands and say, I can't. You just pretend like it didn't happen, and you try to get your relationship back on track. So to me, that is a big chasm in this thing, which sides with Ohio State. That really puts things in their ball court. So that's not usually my area of expertise to read those tree leaves, but boy, that screams, hey, I'm up to no good, and I don't want you guys to know about it till the last second, because you would have told me, don't go. And they probably would have said something like, if you go, you realize you jeopardize X, Y, and Z. So
yeah, I don't know if they would have done that. That's like the old D'Antonio style, where if you go on a visit after you're committed, you lose the offer. But like I said, I think Tarvis Offord, I'm going to mark that date down as the time recruiting officially changed, announced his commitment to Ohio State, then announced his 5 official visit destinations, whatever that means. That just lets you know the world is flipped. And you made a great point on what you said. Not only did they not know he was going to Ohio State, they didn't know he was going anywhere. That's worse. If they were just really worried about Ohio State and knew he might be visiting Ohio State, that's one thing. They aren't even tuned in enough to know where he's possibly visiting. That would bother me greatly, especially, this is like, I hate to give this. Tennessee is a great program, but it's not Georgia, and it's not what used to be Alabama. So it's a little bit different. All right, we got to move on here. Next up.
And we forgot, he is the best lineman I've seen. He is someone that I hate to get all excited about again, because if we don't get him,
Right.
The way you feel about him coming back to you and then being ripped away from you again is not a fun feeling. He's that type of recruit, tip of the spear.
Absolutely. Just the best you can get in this class, and we know that. All right. We're going to try and go as fast as we can here. There's so much content to get to. Carrollton, Georgia safety or defensive back, let's say, Jordyn Woods was verbally committed to Cincinnati for some period of time. Ohio State looked at that and said, say what? And they got involved, and now he's flipped to Ohio State. Bill, the latest and kind of a quick scouting report or vibe on Jordyn Woods.
Yeah, it was interesting. He made his official visit to Ohio State over the weekend. It was a Saturday-Sunday visit, and it was a good one and a long one. He got on the airplane about 8:30 or so on Sunday night. Usually they don't leave that late. In fact, I talked to him. I could hear the engines of the airplane going. He was sitting on the airplane talking to me about the visit. And I had that story on Bucknuts on Sunday night. Felt really good about him flipping to Ohio State when I got off that call with him. And sure enough, on Monday, last night, he announced he was flipping to Ohio State. He's a 6'3", 175-pounder who will absolutely hit you. He has been recruited as a corner and gives Ohio State 3 corners in this class, and it would be a great trio to have, providing Naeem Offord stays with Ohio State. But you got Devin Sanchez, you got Naeem Offord, and now you got Jordyn Woods. And their goal has been to get 3 corners in the class if they can.
There you go. All right, we're going to move on quickly. Normally, we give that more juice, but we don't have time. People will remember this show because Mark Porter once said he thinks Jameer Brown should be the highest-rated receiver in the class over Chris Henry Jr. Here's the good news, those devotees of Heartline. We get both because we are the Ohio State University recruiting at wide receiver, and we're into the level now where there may be a chance Brian Hartline is recruiting one position better than anyone has in the history of football. I know that sounds ridiculous. Turn on the red zone if you have the red zone and start your stopwatch and stop it when you hear an Ohio State wide receiver mentioned in the NFL. You'll get to about 1:30. They're everywhere. Cade Stover even caught a touchdown pass this weekend from C.J. Stroud while being defended by Jerome Baker. Come on, Jerome, get better. That happened. Back stateside here, Mark, Jameer Brown. He has verbally committed to Ohio State. Normally we go to Bill, but everyone knew this happened. Your thoughts on Jameer, height, weight, speed. And I told someone this when we got the commitment. This guy is literally choosing football over the chance to maybe run for the United States 4x1 team.
That is a nice way to say that and put some steam behind him. Freshman year, I went to see a game when he was a freshman. Had no idea who he was. There was an injury that night, and he had to play. Kick return for a touchdown, receiving touchdown, and he's on the scene. And the hype has not stopped since then. Everybody who's seen him has fallen in love. Every workout I've been to, I fall in love even more. When I saw him this year, I think the term I use is when he goes and he goes hard and he puts his feet in the ground, it's almost like he's ripping the turf out of the stadium. You could just see those black balls just being ripped out of the ground. I mean, he has got some dig to him, and the track star portion of that is why that is. I think his ball skills are tremendous. Talking to college coaches this summer about him, they were all jaw-dropping, like Brian Hartline should have signed this kid in 8th grade. What are they waiting for? I mean, it was profuse, adulation. So
how big?
I'd say 6'2", and I'd say he's probably about 185 pounds. If he was 6'1", that wouldn't shock me. But that's why when I said, hey, I like this kid more than Chris Henry, he's got the size, and it's nice that you could have both those guys on the field at the same time. But, boy, just the amount of burst and speed and competitiveness in this kid, he really is going to be a special one. I mean, we keep getting special ones at Ohio State, so I don't know how you keep saying that same word and differentiating these guys from each other. But they're all that in a bag of chips.
Bill, you've seen a lot of dudes, a lot of receivers from the state of Ohio. What I think is surprising about him is that's why I asked about the height. Most guys that move the way he moves are like 5'10". They have that quick twitchy. He's doing that at 6'2", and that's why you can even, I think, in a reasonable discussion. Compare him to Chris Henry, who's 6'5". Your thoughts on Brown? And I was hoping you could put him in context. You've seen a lot of fast receivers from the state of Ohio. Where would Brown rank in that group?
Well, I did see him on a great night. We've talked about this before. The game I saw him play was about a little less than halfway through the season, and he was outstanding. Had 2 touchdowns, and both of them were long touchdowns. He put on a move on one guy in the open field to get that touchdown that the guy didn't even come close to touching him. He would rank up there. I mean, he's a different – I think he's more like 6'1", but he's a pretty well put together kid, decent strength, just blazing speed. The little bit of a knock on him at one point was, does he catch the ball well enough? And he showed this year that he catches the ball plenty well enough. So yeah, I would, gosh, when you do this for almost 40 years, there's a lot of great wide receivers in that span from Ohio, but I would put him up there. Probably, I would say top 5. And, I got to consider Chris Henry Jr., by the way, an Ohio wide receiver, because I saw him play when he was here in the state of Ohio as a high school player here.
Well, Chris Henry certainly has some Ohio ties. Good Lord. Yeah, and look, me saying that, repeating what Mark said is kind of just hyperbole to make the show more interesting. It's like 1 and 1A or gold and platinum. It's gluttony. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. The history books will treat this correctly. God knows what Hartline will go on to do and the heights he'll reach in his career. But what he's done at this level, I would put against – I don't even know how to put it. When I start to think of another position, another school has recruited at this level, I really can't come up with even a competitor. I know there's probably one out there who's done it over the history of time, but it's incredible. You're getting to be – we're starting to get like a 10-year gap here, man, of when Hartline got here, and it's like every year, and it's like, oh, Marvin Harrison is better than Garrett Wilson. Well, J.J. Smith is better. Who are we going to get, man? You're going to have to make up like a cartoon character or something to keep going here.
It's very fair to say that he's not much different than Tate, or, he's not much different than Emeka Ibuka or Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. Not much different, like all in the same ballpark. Yeah, it's really eerily similar how it maybe one guy's an inch or two this way, but they all have that elite speed. They're all in that. But if you lined them all up the race when you took the photo finish, I'd hate to be the one that was behind in that group. Because I think all of them would be very, when they leaned out, maybe the nose got the lean there, but fast group of guys.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to have them all in the field and take a wide angle picture of that. It'd go right here, right at the start. That would be, they mentioned it on one of the broadcasts, the amount of money that the wide receivers at Ohio State have made since the draft, one of the recent drafts like 6 years ago, and it's well over $100 million. So pretty sweet. All right. Another thing that's pretty sweet, Cornbread Hemp. This is our last sponsor of the show. This show needed 3 sponsors. All the Best Deli, who's basically our sponsor every day and every night. Mando, and now Cornbread Hemp is our latest sponsor, and a great deal you guys can get. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, listen, we know your relatives, or some of you are having your relatives at your house for the week. Cornbread Hemp, this is their time. They double up on the holidays so you can get through your family.
Do you give it to them, or do you take it?
Well,
how do you work that? Do you sneak it into the food for them, chill them out, or do you chill out? Which Mark, way does it work?
If my family's watching, I did not do that, as far as you know. But if that little twinge of taste in there, and now your tryptophan is kicking in, double whammy, my family will be asleep by the second half of the Cowboys game for sure, if the Cowboys just don't do that on their own. But Cornbread Hemp, they've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal, Bill, for anyone 21 and above. Cornbread's gummies have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, just the right dose. Perfect for taking the edge off without making you feel anxious or paranoid like other cannabis edibles. Furthermore, they don't use any synthetic ingredients at all. As a special offer for the Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts, then pop in the promo code Bucknuts at checkout. 30% off for your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. And Dave and I say this. These companies would not continue to advertise here if your nutter brethren was not buying this stuff at a record pace. So don't sit back and toss stones. Just toss some cornbread hemp in there, and you should be good to go. All right. We got more names to get to, and we all know you want to talk about Naeem Offord. I am saving that because I'm an old school radio guy. There's your tease. Okay, right now, Chaz Coleman. We have been all over this. Chaz Coleman is another, let's say, athlete, let's say versatile tight end. At one point, we thought maybe in camp, quarterback for his high school team. Turns out he's a defensive end. Committed to Penn State, Ohio State, has since offered recently. We had a discussion with someone involved with Chaz this morning. Bill, bring us up to speed on what you think, and then Mark, maybe 15 to 20 seconds on what you think of him as a prospect. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I talked to Chaz right after Ohio State offered him a scholarship. He was definitely happy about that offer and all. He did not immediately flip or decommit or anything else, but he did tell me that he would not be at the Ohio State-Indiana game and that he was not sure at that point if he would be at the Ohio State-Michigan game, but now we know that he will be at the Ohio State-Michigan game this weekend. We're just not 100% sure if it's official or unofficial. It doesn't really make that much difference because he lives 2.5 hours up the road near Mark. And I'm sure Mark could make it down to Ohio State without an official visit. So, but he is going to be at Ohio State this weekend, and that's big. With Zaire Mathis decommitting and London Merritt not 100% in the class, I mean, he is still has been considering Colorado. Another defensive end is needed. So there are two of them out there. Chaz Coleman is one of them, and then the other is a UCLA commitment, Epi Centinelli. He is from St. John Bosco High School in California, and he has indicated that he is interested in getting out to Ohio State this weekend for an official visit. I can't say right now for sure if that's going to happen or not. He has a game on Friday night. In fact, they're playing Mater Dei High School Friday night, and that game is going to end somewhere around 1 a.m. Columbus time. So that makes it a little dicey to get out to Ohio State and be at that game, but he is a name to be aware of.
Some people love to make Dean jokes, and I have to admit, Dean, I find them comical. So you now know a way to my funny bone. Mark, your thoughts on Chaz? How did you project him? Because we thought tight end for a while.
Yeah, he's that good. You can project him in many different directions. I think that's what's so special about him. But when we put on that film last week of him coming off the edge, that had special written all over it. It was eerily similar to a Justin Hill type of explosion, type body. He could be an outside linebacker type. That's how athletic I feel he is. You see him running with the ball, it wouldn't be a shock to see him covering someone down the field or dropping out into coverage, which makes him even more versatile. But just like I said this a long time ago, the sophomore that shows up on the scene first is not always best. And this is the case and point to that type of an argument where nobody was talking Chaz Coleman sophomore year. Chaz Coleman is equal to these other guys senior year. This would have been a kid going somewhere else that shows up in a draft for the NFL in a couple of years, and we would have said, why and how did we miss him? Not anymore. Yeah.
If he'd been at Penn State, we wouldn't have had to wait that long. We'd have to wait about 18 months, and he'd be rushing the quarterback. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. And so I really stand by this type of later recruiting. More information is better. Not that decommits actually helped this situation come to fruition for Chaz, but unfortunately it did. This would have been a kid that we didn't offer unless the board got to him, and he is of the ilk to be at Ohio State. He is one heck of an athlete.
When this stuff happens, I'll admit, this is just me. I'm not speaking for Chaz. I'm not speaking for either two guys in this show. I always assume the guy is going to come to Ohio State when this happens, the late offer. I don't think Ohio State, this is my opinion, would get involved with this if they didn't think they could pull it off. That's just, it's not like they just called Chaz and were like, hey, Chaz, remember us? We're Ohio State. You ever heard of us? There's some stuff going on behind the scenes. You know what I mean? So I don't.
And what a game to bring him to sell him. It's his official visit this weekend. So, yeah. I mean, it'd be hard to walk out of there intoxicated by a Buckeye win over Michigan and say, that's not the type of environment I'd like to be developed in.
Now look, a whiteout at Penn State, and everyone knows this, is something else now. Yep. Penn State's no joke of a program at all on any level. I mean, they produce a ton of pros. Shoot, they may have the NFL MVP this year, so that's no small victory if they pull them out of there. And by the way, that game was kind of close, not as close as they would have liked. Bill, I want to talk about Naeem Offord, but I want to show everyone something here. If you can see this, see all those Auburn logos? That is the top recruits in the state of Alabama. I'm going to read you the top 13 recruits and where they're going to college. Number 1, and this is as of Tuesday, November 26th at 9:42 a.m. Eastern. Number 1, Ohio State. I'm going to read you now 2. Auburn, Ohio State. Auburn, Kentucky. Auburn, and then Turbo Rogers. So one thing we know this, Kalen DeBoer is in real trouble. Number 2, Auburn has made a real push, Bill, to get all the top guys in Alabama. I've never seen a state that produces that many good dudes be that. Maybe Ohio is the only other one I've seen where you really expect to get the top 10 or 11 guys. I'd be surprised if we've ever even done that in Ohio. Because I'm not sure there's ever been 13 guys in Ohio that could get to Ohio State. I'd have to look that up. Your thoughts on how this is going to go down with Naeem Offord, Bill? Obviously, there's maybe no more well-known possible flip on the recruiting scene right now, given Ohio State's stature and Auburn's push. There's word coming from all angles. Everybody's sources are chatting. What are your sources telling you about the state of Naeem Offord officially as of, like I said, 9:43 a.m. Eastern in the city of Columbus near Bill Olentangy High School? Go give him a visit.
Well, as of now, the plan remains. He and the people around Offord that I talked to remain pretty steadfast that he is going to be at the Ohio State-Michigan game. And that is still the plan right now. And I've said for a long time that, I want to see if he is at that game. And that, that is 4 days away, and we'll see. But that is absolutely, they're pretty steadfast that he will be at that game. He has said that on National Signing Day, he is going to make his final announcement between Ohio State, Auburn, and Oregon. And I've said for some time, at one point last week, people were saying Oregon was the biggest challenge to Ohio State. I said, not what I'm told. It's Ohio State or Auburn in all very strong likelihood, and I still think that. So I concur. I want to see, does he make it to the game? And there's no, again, that's steadfast that he will make it, they are saying. I think this could be a Jeremiah Smith type thing almost, where Ryan Day is standing up at the press conference and gives a big sigh of relief. We actually have Jeremiah signed now. So hopefully, for Ohio State's sake, it turns out like Jeremiah Smith, he is signed. But, it's going to be an announcement that everyone is going to want to tune into. And it would certainly, in my mind, be a great thing if he is at this game. And again, I'm going to reiterate, they say he is going to be at this game.
It's funny you mentioned that, Bill. I said the exact same thing to Dave yesterday, that this is one of those recruitments that if Ryan Day was on the podium as it was settled, his knees may buckle a little bit again, good or bad. So we will see on Naeem Offord. The next question is, if Naeem Offord isn't in the class, does Ohio State have a backup plan? So I want to talk about a guy named Aydan West, defensive back from the great Quince Orchard High School. Before I moved back out to Dayton, we lived in that school district. It is a legitimate football high school. I would say if you were making a comparison to Ohio, it would be a very competitive Central Ohio, Hilliard Bradley type football program. Big, the best players tend to go Division I. They're in the competition for the state championship. Big school. Quince Orchard. Never saw Quince, by the way. He can play, Bill. If you look at him, he fits the physical profile of a corner. You can see pictures of him. He looks like you can catch yourself thinking he might be an outside linebacker. Your thoughts on Aydan West? He is committed elsewhere. What's the vibe?
Well, going into this past weekend, I said of the two guys, the two corners they were bringing in on official visits, Aydan West, of course, and then Jordyn Woods. I said that I felt pretty strongly that Jordyn Woods was the better chance to end up at Ohio State, and Jordyn Woods has committed, of course, last night, announced it to Ohio State. Aydan West is basically down to three schools. He's committed to Michigan State. He made an official visit to Virginia Tech, and then he's made one to Ohio State. Interestingly enough, I said going into this past weekend, I thought that the best chance was that Aydan West ended up at Virginia Tech. In other words, flipping from Michigan State to Virginia Tech. Interestingly, though, he is going back to Michigan State this coming weekend for an unofficial visit. So we'll see how that goes. If I had to make a prediction right now, I would say that he ends up at either Virginia Tech or Michigan State rather than Ohio State. But that's as of right now, so we'll see. We've still got, according to my calendar, we've got a little over a week until signing day.
That might have been Jordyn Woods' spot that he took, but we shall see. And for those of you concerned that we're competing against Virginia Tech, you need to understand that Virginia Tech has a hold in the DMV better than they have in other spots. So the guys consider Tech a lot from the DMV area. All right, Bill. Any other visitors?
Too, by the way, the NIL is important there. Let me say that NIL, like almost all cases, is important there.
It's important to all of us, Bill. Everyone's got to pay the bills. Any other visitors from this past weekend that you want to get out that we need to discuss?
Well, there's a number of kids.
Jakob Weatherspoon was here, was he not?
Yeah, Weatherspoon was here. And he's there's a number of kids that were here this past weekend at Ohio State that they would love to have in the program, and that Ohio State is an absolutely very real contender for. You mentioned one of them, Dan, Jakob Weatherspoon. He is now has been saying that he might wait till the spring, and that is, again, what he said to me when I talked to him after his visit this past weekend. He'll probably wait till the spring to make his decision. I still like Ohio State a lot in that one. I've got him crystal ball to Ohio State. But other guys that Ohio State would like to have that they did really well with this past weekend: defensive end Tyler Atkinson, edge defensive end from Georgia; offensive lineman Micah Smith, who is a teammate of Tarvos Offord at Vero Beach; wide receiver Devin Carter; defensive end edge Xavion Griffin Haynes; safety Blaine Bradford; and then safety Zayd McDonald had a good visit as well. So those are some key names that things went very well with this past weekend.
I went and watched some Tyler Atkinson film, and he's not just a defensive end. In the game I watched, they actually lined him up at middle linebacker. So he is a versatile werewolf type recruit who I imagine that's going to be a battle to get that kind of kid out of the state of Georgia. Boy, if Georgia lets him get out of the state, if I was a Georgia fan, I'd be lobbing a call to Kirby hotline there. That would be a bummer for them and great for us. All right, key visitors this coming weekend. As I said, we're going to give these guys Thanksgiving off. One guy I think everybody wants to know about, Bill, and you chose his picture for your story, so I know you are in it. That is Jahkeem Stewart. You know you're a good football player when you're a sophomore, then you're a junior, you reclassify to be a senior and don't even play football that year. That's how good he is. He looks like Chris Jones. That just, even saying that, I saw it go across Mark's body. It just, he rejected it fully. His body, look at you see him, he like convulsed. It's true. Your thoughts, Bill, on the recruitment of Thanos, Jahkeem Stewart?
Well, he is scheduled to make an official visit to Ohio State this weekend. You got Ohio State, you've got Oregon, USC and LSU, I think this one is as wide open as ever right now. And we'll see how the visit goes this weekend. And again, he may not be the only official visitor. Chaz Coleman is coming. That could be an official visit. And I mentioned Ebby Sentinel from California that's committed to UCLA. That could be an official visit to Ohio State this weekend too. Again, it's only Tuesday morning.
Chaz is an official visit.
It is an official visit. Okay, no shock there. Thank you, Mark.
That makes it even better, by the way. That makes it better. That's a box check.
Yep, that's a good thing. Definitely a good thing in my opinion.
All right, let's see here. We're going to answer whatever questions we have left. We don't have. Okay, then I'll do this. The game coming up. You guys are not going to be here on Thursday. This is an ambush. William, your thoughts on the Fighting Khakis coming down here? They played better recently. 50-7 over Northwestern. Not exactly a juggernaut, Northwestern this season, but an impressive win nonetheless. And Michigan has 3 or 4 guys who are going to be super high draft picks and are great football players starting up front with Mason Graham in the middle and Kenneth Grant. They're probably the best, according to the NFL, combo of defensive tackles in the country. I don't think we're getting Will Johnson in the corner. Shocker, he shut it down. And then Colston Loveland, the tight end, who basically beat us by himself last year. There's been some questions whether he'll play. And I'm not as worried about that because Caleb Downs is now on our team. But, William, your thoughts on the game. And, Mark, you'll get the last word.
Well, obviously I like Ohio State, and I think they have a chance to make this a big win. I guess my one concern, maybe my biggest concern is that Seth McLaughlin is not playing, and Michigan's two of their best players are right there in the middle of the line. Graham is really, really a good player. Grant's not too far behind him. I would love to have McLaughlin there, but Carson Hinsman and the middle of Ohio State's line, they're going to have to do the job. Sierravelt, of course, coming in now at left guard, they're going to have to do the job. And I think Ohio State will be able to work around that, so to speak. And I think Ohio State will win by at least 10 points.
Marcus?
At risk of sounding and giving the same evaluation I gave against Indiana, you expect a temper tantrum in the first half, some fits out of Michigan, some bravado, and, a good fight because they have talent. And maybe it takes Ohio State a little while to figure out exactly how we're going to run the ball. And, we're going to play on the edges, we misdirection or whatever. But I have faith in Chip that he'll connect on a few uppercuts and then the game will unfold the way we all expect it to. But Indiana did the same thing. They came out and, it's their Super Bowl. And this is Michigan's Super Bowl. If they're going to have any sort of success this year, it's ruining Ohio State's year. And that is especially motivating. And being around football long enough, the emotion in games is what keeps them close when they shouldn't be close. And there will be emotion in this game.
Hearing you say that out loud made my stomach turn a little bit because it's unfortunate, but I do think the Michigan people would consider their season somewhat of a success if they win this game. They're not going to. But even the thought of that being out there makes my stomach hurt after the last few seasons. I want to go back to when we won every year by 100, and it was never a doubt. Here's all I ask for Ohio State. Can we have one game where they get off to a good start? Can we just kick it off or take the – look, this is what I want for Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or graduation. We get the ball first, touchdown. They get it, 3 and out. We get it, touchdown. Can we just do that once this year? Please. I'm begging you. The game will be over. And then you get to what, that feeling you had in the third quarter where it was like every time they snapped it, it felt like we had 13 people on defense and 7 guys on the defensive line, and the quarterback looked like he just wanted to go back to Indiana and have a beer. That is really fun to watch. I enjoyed that. That's almost my funnest thing to watch in sports. Can we please get to that? We owe these dudes, man. I mean, come on. All right. I'm going to get fired up here. But seriously, to think that this entire season comes down to this game, it still does. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
It still does. This matters everything. No one cares about nothing else will matter. You'll feel like crap. Even if they win the title. You won't feel as much like crap if they win the title. But you'll still feel crappy. And let me tell you something. The Michigan people will let you hear even more if they win the title and lose this game. So we need to win this bleeping game. All right? That's about as fired as up I can get after this much effort. I need to take a nap. All right. We got these guys around. Bill, where are you going for Thanksgiving? Are you going to go down and get a cold at you going to go to the Petri dish with all the grandchildren, or mom's cooking a turkey? What's up for the Team Kurelic?
It'll be here with part of our contingent of grandchildren. And then on Friday, all of our contingent of grandchildren, which, by the way, we have 5 grandchildren now. That's going to go up. We will have numbers 6 and 7 in a matter of months coming up here. So it's
not twins.
Not twins, 2 different families. My son and his wife they're having their 3rd child in March, and my daughter and her husband are having their 2nd child shortly after that. So we'll have 7 at that point. But all 5 of them will be here the current 5 will be here on Friday.
The Kurelics, versatile and virile. That's what we like to hear. Happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. I'm thankful that I get to work with these guys twice a week, and it's been a real pleasure. Let's make sure we beat blanking Michigan. The quality. How about we just do it for this reason? If you look at these guys on the screen here, our quality of life will go down if Ohio State loses to Michigan. Is that what you want? Is it on Thanksgiving? I don't think so. I got to watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That's torture enough. All right. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We are thankful for all the nutters. Have a good one, Butters. Have a good one, Nutters of Buck.